SX Ed teachers of Reddit, what was the one most disturbing question or class you've ever taught? One of the jocks wanted to know if you were supposed to put your testicles inside a woman's vagina during intercourse. A sigh if you masturbate yourself. Doesn't that mean you're gay? It was something to think about. In SX Ed during high school, the class was being given in the theater, with the gym teacher providing instruction at the front of the auditorium and us all spread out in the seats. The teacher was obviously less comfortable doing this from her normal physical education activities. After most of the class was over, the teacher asked if there were any questions. And there were 3-4 normal questions. Then one girl asked if I give a guy a blowjob. Keep it in my mouth. And then I pass it to his mouth. And he spits it back inside me. Can I get pregnant? The teacher just sort of stared. And the girl squirmed a bit. I can't for the life of me remember if people laughed or we were just all so dumbstruck by this whole sequence. After a while I think the teacher stammered out a response. But I honestly forget what it was. But I will never forget the question. I once went to a lecture on someone who teaches SX Ed to those with disabilities. She said she once had a student say to her, "I like this girl. I can't wait to pay her." Dude didn't know what that word meant whatsoever. Less disturbing and more naive. An 8th grader stayed after her health class to talk to the teacher as I was coming into the room to teach my next section. I overheard her explain that the teacher had said if a girl's period is late, she should take a pregnancy test. But did she need to do that if she'd never had sex? The teacher, thinking perhaps there had been some contact other than intercourse that had the girl worried, asked how long it had been since her last period. To which she said she hadn't had her first one yet. So, a virgin who hasn't started menstruating thought she could be pregnant because her first period hadn't arrived by age 13. Honestly, I feel like most girls have had a thought, however fleeting, that if their period is late they're pregnant, regardless of their virginal status. I certainly did. Not a teacher but some kid in my health class asked very nervously if men had eggs. When my teacher said no and explained it, he legit looked so relieved. Not disturbing. Just innocent. An 11th grade boy asked me if it was possible to permanently run out of semen by masturbating too much. Not a teacher. I was in college intro to psych and one of my classmates asked how GTA why humans couldn't have sex with animals in front of all of us. The GTA turned red and said it was for several reasons and she'd speak with her after class. The student kept prodding and asking the same thing different ways. The GTA finally dismissed class. That girl never came back to class, and she wasn't joking around. She seriously didn't understand it. Not a SX Ed teacher. But a girl in my class asked our biology teacher whether semen could be used as a replacement for breast milk. No, please God, no. One particular idiot in my class made the comment when women lay their eggs, "I cluck when I ovulate." Not a SX Ed teacher, but we were in the assembly hall for STD awareness or something like that, and one of the students asked if I was to come in a pool, is it possible to go into a female vagina and get her pregnant? Safe to say he was sent out. Okay, that's enough Reddit for tonight. Good night and can't wait to get 30k responses in the morning because this is my biggest post ever and I'm quite happy with the responses. NGL. A 5th grade boy once asked, "Why do men pee in women's butts? So only one of you has to get out of bed to pee in the morning." Next question. Not a teacher, sorry. But having just read a completely ed up Dean Koontz book at the age of 9, I asked my SX Ed teacher if, as I had read, a person born with both sex organs could impregnate themselves. He answered the question accurately, age appropriately, and with a completely straight face. I was in the room next door to the SX Ed class and hear my female colleague shout at the boys. I should not have to be telling a 16-year-old that it isn't okay to take their trousers off in my lessons. Pull them back up. Confuse the 12 YOs in the room with me as to why that was being shouted out at the class. My husband was the teacher. He was new. Fresh out of college. Teaching in an all boys. $20. 000 a year school. It was the ask anything. No judgment part of the lesson, and an 8th grade boy asked him, "Does PSSY from different girls taste different?" ... And my then 24-year-old husband said yeah. For sure. Like if she smokes or something. You can taste it. Vegetarian girls taste the best. OMG. He does not work there anymore. Obviously. Thankfully in the last 20 years. He's become an awesome educator. He's a little less green now and would totally hold that train of conversation now. I'm not sure if it was worse that the girl openly asked if squirting was real, or that the teacher confidently responded that squirting is just Hollywood effects. Oh, it's real. Honey. It's real. It's just not from the hole you think it is. One time this 5th grade student asked if a penis had a bone in it and if that's why they called it a boner. The student was me. I'm not a teacher. But when I was in 7th grade and we were taking sex ed, they gave us the little wood eyes and a dude said, "This is just like the one I used to his friend." Then his friend replies, "Yeah. Speaking of that, when are you gonna return it?" Edit. Wood eyes are like wooden dildos. We used them for demonstrating how to put on a condom. We had a female teacher and she was showing us how to put a condom on this rubber dick. My friend asks if she won't show us how to do it with the mouth. You could tell she had tried to prepare for this moment. Yet she somewhat awkwardly replied, "Hey, I think I'll leave that to your so." And what if he doesn't know how to do it either? You could just see her die inside. She went through the rest of her material as fast as she could. And the rest of the lesson was very awkward. Your mom should know how to do it. Not a teacher, but a friend of mine asked the young, female, teacher, when she showed us a wooden dick, if she can show us how to use it properly. Sorta related. I dated a woman who was a sex ed teacher. In her day-to-day conversations her mother mentioned something in the likes of women don't have orgasms, and that was just sad. Sounds like your father-in-law wasn't very knowledgeable in the bed dance. Not a sex ed teacher. Or even remotely close. Who a friend in college had somehow gotten through his entire education and life up till that point without learning that boys and girls have different parts. Seriously. His mom was a school official and kept him out of classes that would have taught him about female anatomy. He learned that women don't have penises from his college dorm mates. Okay. Sure. Good story. But you're leaving out the most important part. We citizens of Reddit need to know how he reacted to all this newfound knowledge. Repost from when I answered in a similar thread. I teach 11-13-year-olds. All subjects. I was explaining the functions of spontaneous erection to a group of 12-year-old boys. As you develop, and even into your adulthood, you will sometimes develop an erection at times that seem inappropriate. Just know that it's normal, and while it can be embarrassing, it does not necessarily mean that you are sexually attracted to anything or anyone at that time. Boy in the front row with his hand up. I have an erection right now. Is that normal? Not a teacher, just a horrified bystander to this horrific question asked completely seriously by a classmate in 9th grade. During the condom chapter she raised her hand and asked if in emergency situations, tinfoil could be used as a condom. There was no sound from anywhere in the room. Not even from the teacher. We all just stared at her until she turned beet red and shrunk back in her seat. Despite the ignorance of the question, the teacher should have handled that better by turning it into a discussion about why homemade DIY condoms are not safe or effective, without leaving the girl completely embarrassed. AWW. That makes me sad. The teacher should have given her a sincere answer so she didn't feel ashamed. Obligatory. Not a teacher but someone in one of my health classes in middle school asked, in order to have twins, do you have to have sex twice as hard? Pretty much immediately after the teacher finished that subject. Not quite disturbing but definitely notable. Religious school not during sex ed. Girl asks what blessing do you make on semen. Ask not what semen can do for you, but what you can do for semen. One of my associates told me that one of her students had asked her what would happen to her genitalia and her hymen if she had premarital intercourse. And surprisingly, she had gone to a religious school before she got there. Remember kids, sex is only safe when you sign a special piece of paper. If you don't. Not a teacher, but when we had sex ed in school they had what I guess is a wooden DLDO, but it was huge and looked less phallic than a banana. I had a classmate who kept asking the teacher if she used Woody in her spare time. Very first question of middle school sex ed class I was in was from this huge dude and he just blurted out what's a vagina? But he pronounced it phonetically. He really didn't live it down for a while. If you put your penis in an insect, would you orgasm so hard you die? Somebody must have a really tiny penis. When my middle school health teacher was explaining that women have 3 holes, I distinctly remember a boy asking, "What happens if you put it in the wrong hole?" You get slapped. But only if you don't ask first. When 2 gay men have sex. Obligatory, not a teacher, but a fellow student. Female. Who was a quiet, nerdy little thing in my grade 5 sex education class. She sat there and took it all in, saying nothing until the teacher asked for questions. Corley pipes up and asks in this tiny voice, "So old do you gotta be too?" Full stop. The whole class erupted with laughter and the poor teacher was lost for words. Edit. This is my most upvoted comment ever. Go to love random old Reddit. So many of these seem like totally normal things for kids to be curious about. Followed by yeah. So they got sent to the principal's office. Not a teacher but a student. One of my classmates said that if I had AIDS and then have sex with someone with AIDS, would we get double AIDS? I'm pretty sure he was joking, but he got in lots of trouble for it. Good times. I hope my health teacher from high school isn't on here. So here it goes. I was a freshman in high school. These kids were talking about queefing. I started laughing and then asking what that is, and my health teacher starts laughing and saying, "You really don't know what that is?" So I told him I never heard the word, so he kind of sighed and goes, "Well, I am teaching sex ed so I can get away with this," and goes on to tell me the exact definition, and I was even more confused. God bless sex ed teachers. Because that must have been awkward for MR. Oh. I was a student, not a teacher. We had 3D printed models of the genitals and you could pull them apart in their pieces. Clit. Inner lips. Outer lips. Dot. Cole tried to build the vulva model and was muttering FK. Where is the clitoris? I can't find it. It fell under the desk, and his GF commented from the other side of the room, "After all this time, you're still not able to find the clit?" Full stop. Savage. I had a big burly 8th grade football captain ask how much protein is in semen while we were discussing proper prenatal care in the event of an unintended pregnancy. Not a sex ed teacher, but I once made out with a girl. Nothing more. The next day she died. If she could be pregnant. We were both 22. I'm sorry for your loss. I've concluded from these comments that most sex ed teachers kinda suck. Don't take the job if you can't be willing to tastefully and appropriately answer any stupid question without destroying a young person's confidence. Not a teacher. But freshman year we had sex ed. And the teacher explained how semen is predominantly made of sugars, and one of the girls in the class yelled, "Then why does it taste so salty?" It's been 18 years and I still chuckle about it. Not a sex ed teacher. But went to see the X-rated movie Midnight Cowboy at the theater with my very proper mother when I was about 13. When it was over, her only comment was that men and women are different. So how do 2 men have sex? I said. You don't want to know. She thought about it for a moment and decided that was true. If you have problems believing any part of this story, I will just say that 1969 was a very different time. Oh god, I went to an all-girls Catholic high school and had my friend ask me if dicks had bones in them. No, but if they get fractured it hurts like one though. I just remembered that in the first year of high school in 8th grade, one of the boys in my form class said to everyone that if you come in a girl's ass she can die. Used to have a box on Fridays where students would drop off questions they had. I'd sort through them to answer some at the beginning of Monday's classes. One day, I was going through the submissions and came across the question if I wanted to abort a fetus with a firearm, where would be the best place to shoot? Definitely wasn't going to answer it, but it lived in my mind rent-free for a good couple hours. Until chores and the weekend shuffled it out. I came back in the next week. Everyone was back in their seats. And I called everyone to attention. Lola kid in the back had his hand raised. A fairly nervous expression on his face. I pointed at him. And he repeated the exact same question verbatim. That was the most nervous I've ever been in front of any group of people. But this was the job I chose. So I gritted my teeth. And told him you should have put a serious tag on this question. Eats popcorn. Hey. Have enough for the whole subreddit.